Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Thanks so much for having me. How fun to be here.
Oh, it's gonna we're gonna have a blast. I mean, your idea is fascinating. Your story is remarkable and inspiring. So we only have a half hour, so rather than delay things further, and I see plenty of participants are already kind of running in here because the bullpen is open, so to speak. So Kimberly Meckwood, tell us about yourself. And well, let me see. I wonder sometimes, should we start with the inventor's bio or should we start with the product? I'm actually changing my mind on the fly here. And Jenny, if you can play the video, let's watch this short 50-second video, and then we'll go back to Kim.
Click and Carry is a simple handle device that allows shoppers to manage and carry multiple bags at once comfortably. Click and Carry may be carried in the hands or worn over the shoulders. When worn over the shoulder for easier carrying, the device uses the weight of the bags to counterbalance. It may also be used to carry sporting equipment. As a ski boot tote, it gives the user an extra hand for just about anything. Click and Carry works with paint cans and construction pails, and the handle can hold up to 50 pounds of product. It's a perfect gadget for dry cleaning, and you may put multiple dog leashes on either end of the product to easily walk both dogs at once. It's ideal for carrying all those party favors into the next bridal shower. This is a perfect product for moms, urban dwellers, and for seniors with dexterity issues.
Perfect. Perfect. So gosh, that takes away my intro of the product because you just done a phenomenal job with that video. And I know that's the video that QVC uses as well.
That's right. So, B-roll to show everyone all the fun uses for Click and Carry.
Okay, so tell us about yourself and perhaps before Click and Carry, like what was your day job? What were you doing, and what inspired this idea?
So it's so funny you would ask that. So I have been working in neurology for, gosh, almost 20 years in both pharmaceuticals and medical device sales. And I was actually at one point working and selling a product that was just a slight modification to an old drug that was used for me to be introduced to the movement disorder specialists, who are neurologists who specialize in Parkinson's disease. And this drug was an old gold standard, so there wasn't a lot to talk to the doctors about. And at the time, I had just gone through a breakup with my boyfriend, and he used to carry in all the groceries for me. And when we broke up, I had to carry my own groceries. So I knew there had to be a better way. And the idea came to me. It actually came to me in a dream, at least the shape of it. It was this shape, but without the top. And I'll explain that in a little bit. But the idea came to me, and I would be speaking to one doctor in particular about it. She's a brilliant neurologist at USC. And finally she said to me, Kim, will you shut up and stop talking about this idea and do something about it? So I listened to her, and I did. I actually hired her neighbor. Her neighbor was a student at the Pasadena Design School, and she had her undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering, and then she was going to school for her master's in product design. So I hired her neighbor, Audrey, to help me with 3D CAD printings. And we went through about 9 different iterations of that design. So I made 9 CAD prints, and at the 9th one was the winner, but I knew it had to work in real life. So I created a mold. It was about $5,000, but it was something that I needed to do, and it didn't work perfectly. So I had to make some modifications on that mold. But then once I had the winner, that was the time to go and patent the idea. So that was the birth of Click and Carry.
Yeah, wow. So that I mean, as a patent attorney, having done this for 25 years, it's no surprise to me that the original prototype had to be changed, right?
Absolutely. So it's and thank you for reminding me. So the beginning of the shape was kind of like a boomerang, and it didn't have a top, and it worked. But the problem is when you set the bags down, they would pop out. So the next iteration included a 2-piece with a magnet, but I knew if it were 2 pieces that someone could possibly get hurt, and we know that people would lose one of the 2 sides, obviously the bottom side being the more important side. But I knew it had to be one solid unit, and the inspiration actually came from a hair clip, a barrette. I used to tie my hair up and in a bun, and this was a clip that you would press down and it would click into place. So I knew that I would have to do a twisting mechanism. And then if you look closely at the click and carry, there's a male female part that locks it into place, hence the click. And click and carry was born.
Okay. And I know, Jenny, if you want to put a link to the Inventors Mastermind, our Facebook group, we can post close-up pictures of the click and carry there. So people would be able to see those features that you're talking about. They probably won't be up on the Facebook group until the end of the day, but you know, the other alternative is to ask you to hold it up right close to the camera, and I don't think that's gonna do it justice. So, well, you can try. Let's see. Oh wow. Oh, it is okay.
And this is my favorite view because you can see there's actually 2 divots here, so you can actually put 2 or 3 bags here, another bag here, and it will actually raise the 3rd or 4th bag a little bit higher, so it's easy to put on your shoulder and to be completely hands-free.
Oh, that's what allows that. Because in the video I saw the person at the dry cleaners, and that was like it was great. Like he had some of the clothes in front, some in back, and that's the configuration it's in.
Absolutely. The key is to evenly distribute the weight. So let's say, for example, in that case, you have 10 pieces of dry cleaning. Make sure you put 5 on each side so the weight is even, and then you don't even have to mess with it. It will just sit there on your shoulder. And I realized that the video that I made for QVC might be a little bit old because it actually carries 80 pounds. I can't personally carry 80 pounds, but you can carry 80 pounds on the click and carry, and it actually doesn't even stress fracture until you get to 153 pounds. So it's very sturdy. I personally can't carry that much though.
Yeah. Wow. So 80 pounds. I mean, you could even see possible uses at the gym, but I don't want, you know, it seems like every time you get your video done, there's a new use that comes to mind. Tell us about how the smartphones and iPhone holder.
Sure. So this I found out by accident. I find out my new uses all by accident. I'm on my Facebook or Instagram. I invite people to send me their new ideas or show me them carrying a ton of groceries. And one of the friends showed me this. You twist it open, and like I said, since there's a special bracket that allows you to carry more bags, you could actually put your iPhone or iPad in the click and carry. Imagine that this is on a table, of course.
Right.
And it will just sit there for you. It's a nice little prop. So while it's not in use carrying groceries, it could be in use helping you to prop your iPad or your iPhone.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. What were some of the obstacles? And obviously prototyping posed a few obstacles at the beginning. Tell us about any other obstacles that were either expected or unexpected that kind of you had to overcome.
Sure. So you're right about it was an obstacle to get prototyping. And that's why I went with someone who was in school who had access to a 3D CAD printer, because my 9 iterations that cost about $1,800 at the local college would have probably cost me $20,000 or $30,000 out in the real world. So money obviously is an issue. I hired a patent attorney because I knew that I wouldn't be able to write the patent correctly. So that was the best move of my life. But interestingly, the time I did it, it was when we were going through a recession in the country. So the USPTO actually drew back on their number of employees. So my first patent actually took 3 years. The second patent was a little more quick. It was about 1.5 years later, but that was an obstacle. And then finally, I think the biggest obstacle of all, and it continues to be an obstacle, but things are getting a little bit better thanks to Shark Tank, is getting the word out about this product, because people don't realize they need it. until they actually use it or have it explained to them. So for example, if you saw this in the store, you might think, oh, that's just a little boomerang, or what the heck is that for? And it needs a demonstration. So getting out and demonstrating and getting the public awareness has been a big obstacle, but that's the most important piece of this puzzle to me.
Yeah, it's funny. That reminds me, try to find, oh yeah, here, like with Post-its, like 3M actually had to give these out for free at the beginning because nobody really understood what you would use it for and how valuable they are until you had a stack on your desk and you find yourself sticking them everywhere. I can imagine a lot of similarities with your click and carry as well. Like, right, because once it's there on your desk, that's when you're like, hey, wow, this thing will hold the phone as well. And then all those times where you need to go pick something up, it triggers it, the fact of just having it there.
It's funny you would say that. I told them on Shark Tank, I told the sharks, I said, this is going to be the next umbrella. And the reason being is because people will buy one, they'll forget it on one of their grocery shopping trips, and they'll have to struggle with their groceries. And to prevent that in the future, they'll have one in the glove compartment, one in their purse, one at home in the drawer, because they don't want to ever be caught without it. And so I agree with you. And by the way, Post-its are magical. I can't live without Post-it notes.
Well, from a lawyer standpoint, because everyone always says, well, everything you can do with a Post-it, you can do with a piece of paper and tape. But that's the whole thing about improving lives through innovation, is sometimes the differences they don't have to be earth-shattering. Like, it's convenience, and it's sometimes a small difference in convenience of not having to go and find the piece of tape and the piece of paper and then having it sized perfectly. It's just the convenience of having it there. But a lot of times, and I want to get back to you're mentioning 2 patents, because I'm often have inventors that find that their product evolves over time. Is that what triggered the second patent for
Yes.
you?
Great question. Yes. So originally on the side here, I hope you can see it, it was just a single line. So what would happen is, even though there's a male-female part, just a slight nodule that keeps it locked into place.
Mm-hmm.
I needed an extra mechanism to really stop that flow. Otherwise, it would just flow freely. So I redesigned it. This is so bizarre, but it's another guy's story. I was on a date with an orthopedic surgeon, and it was such a boring date. He was talking about favorable fractures. And a favorable fracture is when you break a bone at kind of like a diagonal, so that when it's trying to heal, there'll be resistance on both sides. So that gave me the idea of this tongue and groove, almost like a tooth. So it's easy and it clicks into place, and it provides for more stability than with just the single line. So yes, it was an improvement on the first. It was just
and that second patent that's what that covered, is that improvement.
Yes, and I added the dividers too, so that one can easily put multiple bags on each side, and it would raise the bags about an inch, so it would be easier to put on the shoulder if you had, let's say, 5 or 6 bags.
Right. Yeah. Then there's and that's why larger companies, like of course Apple, money is no object for them, but the iPhone has 49 patents covering it. 49, probably more by now, because there's always new innovations that are made, and there's also, from a patent attorney standpoint, you can get really broad protection by filing a portfolio, and it helps with the valuation as well. Was that point addressed at all? Was the patenting asked about when you were on Shark Tank?
It was, and a little secret is that when you are on Shark Tank and you're actually right there on stage, it's much longer than what appears on TV. So it was covered. They asked about the patents, and they asked about trademarking, etc. And they love that when you have IP protection, because they know that it can be defended moving forward. It's a real big sell for the sharks.
Yeah. So is that, so you have, do you have the name trademarked as well?
I do, yes.
Karen?
Yep, here and internationally.
Oh, okay. Wow. Is that, is there an actual click when it falls, when it goes in?
Yep, I don't know if you could hear
Oh,
that.
yep. I can hear it.
And
Definitely that now we see where the name comes from. One of the
exactly.
things you mentioned, and you said in your original that didn't have a top on it, the bags would come out when you placed it down. And I'm thinking, well, but don't you want them out? But then I realized that maybe you make a pit stop something. So say you leave your car and you want to check your mailbox before walking in. So that's probably where necessity is the mother of invention. You think the product is done, you have your prototype, and then you start using it, and then you realize, okay, so I put it down to check my mailbox, and then when you lift it up, the bags are out and you have to adjust them. So that is like something like that must have happened to trigger that change.
It did. You're very intuitive. It was actually, instead of the mailbox, it was my front door, because I live in a condo, so I try to make all my grocery trips in one quick trip.
Mhm.
So I make sure both of my hands are taken. So I would set the bags down to unlock my door, and instead of having to regather 5 or 6 loose bags, because all the bags were together on the handle, I just pick up the handle and boom, I'm on my way. So that's exactly right. That it is the mother of invention, and that's why I added the top to it.
So as what advice would you have for inventors having, like, knowing what you know now about the journey and some of the roadblocks, and I've practiced long enough to know the roadblocks could be sometimes they're financial roadblocks, just raising the funding. Was that an obstacle in your journey as well? Because sometimes the people that go on Shark Tank, that's their primary goal. Of course, exposure is great, but also trying to get a shark to invest. So you have the funds to experiment and R&D and produce prototypes. So talk to us about that.
Sure. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. Yeah. Money is definitely an issue, especially as a solo entrepreneur like me. I bootstrapped it, but I did raise some funds, and that was very helpful. But it's so interesting because there are so many different obstacles, but the advice that I would give is that take advantage of your local colleges. There's talent all around you. For example, I live across from UCLA. I approach some of the MBA students because they could help with the marketing strategy or business design, or answer questions that you may not have the answer to. There's so many different people around willing to help, or even working with the SBA. I worked with the local SBA. I worked with SCORE, with mentors who are retired, and they just love to give back. It's so interesting. What I found is that people really want to help other people, and all you have to do is just ask for their help. And there's so much help out there, and inexpensive help, because like I said, I bootstrapped this, so I didn't have a lot of money, and I had to work a full-time job up until recently to promote this. So to take advantage of their expertise at a discount was just fantastic and really helped me significantly. So there's always ways around it. And like I said, with even just the prototyping and making the different iterations, I wouldn't have been able to afford to have someone print on a CAD printer for me, because I would have had to pay for the engineer and for the printing. It would have cost me thousands of dollars for just one iteration. But by working with the Pasadena Design School, I did it for $2,000. And by the way, this is a promotion to you, because your job is so important. I know that there's ways that one can write their own patent, but I knew that I didn't have the know-how. I needed a patent attorney who was also an engineer, who understood and who could guide me. And that was very expensive. And I really suffered through the process of, getting it patented, but it was the best move of my life, because I am so secure in my patent. In fact, it's funny because the United States Patent and Trademark Office did a story about me years ago. I met them at a home and houseware show in Chicago. It's a very big trade show, and they're actually going to feature me as a guest speaker upcoming in March. And just to have the credibility that I actually spoke for the United States Patent and Trademark Office, and I was in their periodical called Inventor's Eye, that gives me extra credibility, and it makes it more difficult for someone to try to infringe on my patent. So I just have to tell you, the confidence of having dealt with a patent attorney really allows me to sleep well at night. So I'm thankful for people like you.
Yeah. No, thanks. And there's, what they say about, and, like being an engineer and an attorney, it's, you end up learning more and more as a patent attorney. They say an expert is someone who learns more and more about less and less. And at some point, I find that the more you specialize, you end up learning an incredible amount about a specialty that's this tiny. And it's amazing to have, when you have that, that's why I'm so fueled by inventors, because those are the people that actually fit this tiny little niche that can actually use the knowledge that it's taken, an entire career to accumulate. So thank you for that. And I have to give you credit for realizing the value of having the patent done correctly, and not just the first one, but then also when your product changed and trying to get additional protection for the other part. So that makes a lot of sense. And it's not an easy decision to make, because there's a lot you can spend your money on at the early stages of bringing a product to market, right? You've got marketing costs, you have prototype costs, you've got the cost of getting the product done. And when I say prototype costs, multiple iterations of the prototype, because it's rare that you get it right, as you found on the first try.
Right. It's so true, but it was such a worthy investment. In fact, I'm going to be calling my attorney very soon, because I have an addition to the click and carry. So Dr. Jason Farhadian is going to be getting a call very soon.
Oh, okay. No, terrific. Because that's it. Now, sometimes, the fact that your patents are granted, the improvement has to be a non-obvious improvement over those. So it's exciting. I'm not going to ask you live on to talk about it, because this is something more for our audience, that in 2013, the US patent system underwent the single biggest change in this century. We went from a first to invent system to a system that's first to file. And so first to invent was really favorable to individual inventors like Kim, because if they don't pursue the patent right away, as long as they can document the conception of their idea and their prototyping and the efforts that they've made to kind of finally develop it, that was enough to beat somebody else if someone else were to patent it first. Under first to invent, which was prior to 2013, that was enough. Today, unfortunately, the law is first to file. So all of the evidence that you might have, Kim, of this new idea, whether it's video, whether it's pictures, witnesses, even receipts for raw materials for your prototype, none of that is going to help you if somebody else files the patent first. So you're right about that phone call for this improvement. Right up, as soon as we're off the air, I would suggest getting that call in and making sure that patent gets in first, because first to file it's great for large corporations and larger businesses. It's easy for them to get the funding, and a lot of large corporations have patent attorneys just on salary full-time working for them. So it's easy for them to be first to file. It was a huge blow for individual inventors, because now with all these competing expenses at the early stages of developing the idea, you don't have breathing room. You kind of have to decide between, do you patent it or do you prototype it? And not just because I'm a patent attorney and I'm biased, but I would say patent it first, because you need to be first to file. You need to get that patent in and have it protected.
Thank you for that advice. I appreciate that. And if anyone's interested, if you go to clickandcarry.com. You could sign up, and I send out a newsletter once a month, and I'll be sharing the new invention soon. It's actually something that straps onto the Click and Carry. It's a lot of fun. So it's coming soon.
Oh, so it's like an accessory to the Click and Carry.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I know Jenny's our assistant here. If you can put the website for Click and Carry in our chat box, and we'll also post it in the Inventors Mastermind on Facebook. So Jenny, you can put the Facebook Mastermind URL there as well. I'm excited to see this accessory, but not until you have it patent pending. And you know, you've kind of lived through the long process of waiting to get from patent pending to having the patent granted. Tell us a little bit how that has been, not just emotionally, but also from investors' standpoint and others. There's a lot of people waiting for that patent to grant and that are relying on it in addition to you.
Oh, it's so tough. I have to tell you, it's difficult because I'm a talker, and to not be able to talk about my baby
Right.
is almost impossible. I would say that was the hardest part, but I knew that I couldn't do anything until I had that paper. Like I said, I can't thank you for what you do enough, because I knew I didn't have the expertise necessary to get this done the right way. And I'm just so grateful because, like I said, I could sleep at night. But yeah, it was a difficult process. It takes a long time. So I didn't even look for investors until that period was over. So that was 3 years. I was basically on hold for 3 years. But sometimes that's what it takes.
Right, right. And, you know, and the pending is critical, but some inventors, to be really safe, they want to wait until the patent is actually issued. And that becomes a longer wait. Now, your second patent went a lot sooner.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many factors. So I don't know necessarily whether it was the recession, and as you said, as the patent office slowed down. Sometimes it's surprising, even within the same field of invention, we'll have one patent that gets granted in a year and something similar that it takes 2 or 3 years. So I wish I had an explanation for that as to why that disparity is there. But just so for our viewers, a year is the fastest I have seen. So I mean, just to be prepared for that. It's not going to be something that you file and immediately gets granted. And there's also in most patents, there's this period of prosecution, which is back and forth arguments with the patent office, trying to convince them. Did you have any of that in your case?
I did. So interestingly, who knew, but there were 16 bag holders when I filed my patent since 1952. Wow. And the reason I was finally and ultimately awarded 2 utility patents is because mine is the only one that allows for the user to be truly hands-free. So that was the big winning concept. And it was just such a slight modification, but because it's hands-free, that's why I was awarded those patents. And thank goodness I was. And it's interesting because there have been about 3 or 4 new competitors since I was issued that patent. And one claims to be hands-free, but they're actually not, because it's basically the equivalent of a hobo bag. Do you remember those hobo sticks where?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So it's
so
called,
you see like a big, like laundry or something tied onto the end, right? That's yes. What comes to mind.
Exactly. So their product is called Grocery Grips, and it's basically just a strap. And they say it's hands-free, but it's not hands-free because all the weight is carried in the back, and it has to be anchored with your arm in the front. So that doesn't make it hands-free. I don't think that they were awarded a patent, so I didn't research that much. I just despise that they use the word hands-free, because it's not. They shouldn't be allowed.
Well, the good thing is that I mean, even if they were granted a patent, like that's not you. And this is something a lot of inventors are surprised by. But the patent itself it does not prevent somebody else from claiming the same features. Like it's that product, and the examiner is going to look at the claims, and a court is going to look at the claims and see if they're actually infringed. So I think you'll be in good shape on that one. We are very close to out of time. So is there any parting last nuggets of wisdom that you have for the inventors that are watching, and you truly are an inspiration to so many that have even maybe seen your episode on Shark Tank or just heard about you. You're a classic inventor that has started with like bootstrapping the idea from the early stages and then getting it to the point where now you're no longer you're no longer working for somebody else, right? You're able to dedicate 100% of your time to this. So that's got to be amazing.
It is amazing. And what I would, the advice I would offer is don't listen to the naysayers, because I can't tell you how many people along the way said, oh, nobody needs that. I don't like that idea. You're wasting your money. You're wasting your time. Don't listen to them. If you believe in it, and if you see it as something useful that's going to better the life of someone else, you need to go for it. Don't give up. No is just no for now is the main point of my message. Don't listen to them. And another important thing is, if anybody out there has any questions or needs some advice, I'm happy to give it, because I've received so much help along the way. I think it's important to give back, and I especially have a special place in my heart for inventors, because I think of new ideas all the time. And if someone has a question or concern and I can help them, I'd be glad to. So I just want to let everybody know that.
Thank you, Kim. What a wonderful last nugget you had on ignoring the naysayers. So that reminds me, and I'll just end on this, because I know we promised everyone a half hour because everyone's zoomed out these days. This is one of my favorite quotes from Walt Disney. If you can dream it, you can do it. And believe it or not, Walt Disney was fired by a newspaper reporter for not having enough imagination. So don't let somebody else judge your product or your idea. If the ideas come to you, it's come to you for a reason. So don't give up on it. So with that, Kim, thank you so much. And of course, we'll have your information in the Inventors Mastermind as well. Thank you, everybody, and happy Friday. Have a wonderful weekend.